as a religion. And so, just to kind of remind you from where we left off last class, Islam starts when Muhammad leaves Mecca and he starts his own Muslim community in this city called Yathrib, which is later called Medina or Al Medina, which is the city. And the first group of people who were going to convert to Islam were originally Jewish, so they were already monotheist, and they're going to create what is called the Ummah. And so this is going to be the first Muslim community, and they are going to reside or live in Medina, and they are going to follow Muhammad as a political and a religious leader. And they're going to adhere to Islamic law, which is based on his messages from the Quran and also his practices in his everyday life. And so when Muhammad dies, the Ummah is going to be faced with a question of who is going to be their next leader. So there's not going to be any appointed male successor or caliph. And so the Ummah, the Muslim community in Medina or Yathrib, they are going to decide on who the next four leaders should be. And this is going to they're going to generally have an agreement about these four rightly guided caliphs, is what they're going to be called. And so as these rightly guided caliphs take the position of successor to Muhammad, the Islam religion is going to spread throughout the Middle East. You can see this light bluish green color. This is the area where Islam spreads immediately after Muhammad's death, which is pretty significant considering he died in 632. So within 30 years, Islam spreads to all of these regions of the world. And so the first rightly guided caliph is going to be Abu Bakr. And so this guy, he is Muhammad's father-in-law. He was very close to Muhammad, and this is where Islam is going to spread westward to Egypt, right across the Red Sea. Under Omar, sometimes spelled with a U, this is the second caliph, and so this is just within 10 years after his death. Islam is going to actually be able to spread up into the Sassanid and the Byzantine Empire. And so at that time, and so I'll go back, at that time, those empires, they were competing with one another. And so because so this is where the Sassanid Empire and this is the Byzantine Empire. So they were fighting, and that made them relatively weak. The third caliph is going to be Uthman, also sometimes spelled with a U. And so, again, this is just about 20 years after Muhammad's death. And under Uthman, Islam is going to spread into the Byzantine Empire, into Armenia, into Afghanistan, into Iran. He's also going to be the first caliph to compile an actual text of the Quran. And so, again, this is just 20 years after Muhammad has died. And so the roots of that Quran are pretty close to what Muhammad actually said. And finally, the fourth caliph, Ali, is going to be Muhammad's nephew and his son-in-law. And so this is where there's going to be some division within the Ummah or the Muslim community, and actually lead to the first division of Islam into different religious sects. And so Ali, some people are going to say, should have been the first caliph or the first successor because he is blood related to Muhammad. And because of this disagreement, this is going to lead to the first fitna or civil war in Islam. And so this is an image here. And so typically all Islamic paintings, they're going to have a veil over Muhammad, or they're not going to paint his face because they don't believe that they can represent who he was, or that they should really try to replicate any of God's creatures. And so the first fitna, this is going to be a civil war between Ali, Muhammad's son-in-law, and this other leader who comes from Uthman's side. His name is Muawiyah. And so Muawiyah, he was really like a military type of leader. And so he leads the conquest up into Syria and up into that Byzantine Empire to spread Islam. But once his father Uthman dies, and so Muawiyah is going to try to keep control, while there's going to be some people that say, no, now it's Ali's turn. And so Ali is going to move the capital actually to this place in Iraq. So now you have kind of two divisions of where the center of Islam is in Damascus in Syria, and also in Iraq where Ali is. Um, then later, there's going to be this battle between Aisha. And so, Aisha, this is considered Muhammad's like favorite wife. She was younger, she was an orphan, and so he marries her and he kind of takes care of her in that type of role. And a lot of Muslims, they're going to see her as an instigator, but she is going to lead a fight between the Muslims. And so, they're going to have this actual battle um, between Muawiyah, who are the Sunni Islam, and the Shia Islam Muslims who follow Ali. Um, Ali's assassination and the first martyrs. So what's going to happen? So remember, Ali is blood related to Muhammad. He's like related to his favorite, Muhammad's favorite wife. And so Hussein and Hassan, these are going to be Muhammad's grandsons. And so they are related to Ali. And so, according to the Shia Muslims, these are the next two in line to Ali. However, they are going to be killed in this battle for control and leadership over the Islamic community. So, the descendants of Muawiyah and Hussein and Ali, they are actually going to fight in this famous battle of Karbala in 680. So again, this is just 50 years after Muhammad dies. And so what is going to happen is both of Muhammad's grandsons, Hussein and Hassan, they are going to be killed in this battle of Karbala. And so this group of Muslims who are known as the Shi'i or Shia Muslims, they are going to um, they are going to hold Hussein and Hassan in very high regard, and they almost look at them as like saints. And they are going to say they are the first martyrs. And so, this battle of Karbala, where they are killed, is a holy place for Shia or Shi'i Muslims. And so, here's an image that represents the Battle of Karbala. So, here's Hussein. I believe this would be Hussein. And so, here they are as martyrs. And so, this is actually in Iraq where this happens. And so there are going to be very holy sites that are there. And so later in the Iran-Iraq war, and then later with our war in Iraq with the United States, there's always going to be this kind of conflict between the Sunni Muslims and the Shia Muslims who were there. And so um, the Sunni Muslims, they are the ones who are fighting against Ali, Hussein, and Hassan. And so the Sunni Muslims, they're going to say that Muawiyah, Uthman, and those kind of descendants are the rightful leaders. And they're going to say that the ulama, so these are going to be like religious scholars, they are going to be the ones who are uh, right to lead the Muslim community. And so basically, the ulama, these are going to be well educated religious scholars and they are typically associated with the Umayyad Empire. And so this is, again, that empire that spreads to the Byzantine Empire and into Syria. And so today, most Muslims are Sunni. Um, and so the Shia Muslims, on the other hand, they're going to say, no, the leaders of the Muslim community and the Muslim religion, they should be based on the bloodline of Muhammad. And so they're going to kind of believe that there's going to be um, uh, maybe a resurrection of Muhammad or somebody from his bloodline called the 12th Imam who's going to come for the final judgment. And they kind of view Muhammad's bloodline as saints, and they have kind of more ritualistic practices celebrating or remembering the death of his family members. And so this map here, this is a map of the Sunni Muslims, which is all this light color green, and the Shia Muslims, which is just this dark color green. So you can see the widespread community of the Sunni Muslims who kind of follow the idea of following that religious scholarship versus following Muhammad's bloodline. And probably one of the most historical conflicts based on this political divide within this one religion is going to be the Iran-Iraq war. And so this is where you have Iran and you have Sunni Iraq. they are going to battle over this border area. And so keep in mind that there are several holy sites for the Shia Muslims in Iraq. Iran is going to be a central and powerful um, Shia country, while Iraq is going to kind of flux back and forth between Sunni and Shia.